Morning or evening. Hey, Don.
Hey, look, how are you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well here, yeah.
There's Ben. Maybe he could stop the recording. I don't know why I never have access to do that. We'll figure that out.
All right. Hey, everybody. I don't know if we have many kind of built-in updates today. But we could just go over the regular stuff. So we've got the summit coming up in September. We've started to re-engage all of our speakers from the past and have speaker proposals open now. So anybody can apply with a proposal on the the OpenJS Summit GitHub repo. You can just make a GitHub issue. There's a template there that anybody could go to basically propose some kind of session to do. Could be a workshop, could be a talk, discussion, whatever you're interested in. And we're hoping to fill up our agenda and have that locked 2 months in advance of the summit. So July 10th. Yeah, hope to get some great sessions in. We've already got a few. So we're starting to look through those and yeah, excited to, if you have anybody that you think might make a good like session for us, or you think would be interested in attending, let them know. We have some posts up on all of our GitHub repos, like on DeckGL, Luma, and all that. In the discussions, we have basically a pinned post now about the Collaboration Summit. So it should be pretty easy to find. And then I think we're now working on, with Kylie and the OpenJS team, we're working on the cool stuff. We got t-shirt designs coming, some wallpapers and things, to kind of public, like some graphic design for the summit this year coming along, which will then go into our registration page. And we've got that registration page ready as soon as we want to start accepting, registrations. I think that's all the updates I had. Are there any other summit updates anyone has to share?
Not strictly a summit update, but summit related comment. So if someone wants to do an update, I can just wait until after. Yeah, we were looking at going to FOSS 4G North America, and realized that we'd managed to schedule this summit on exactly the same days as FOSS 4G North America, which is not ideal, but something that we can think about for the future. And I think last time when we had the summit, we were discussing, or maybe it was on these calls, we were talking about the possibility of kind of like gluing the summit to some other OpenJS events. And I just thought that would be interesting to consider not so much gluing it onto that event, but onto FOSS 4G, because there's quite a big overlap between the kind of developers that we might want to target at FOSS 4G. That's why we're basically looking at it, because we think there's a lot of people there who would benefit from learning more about DeckGL, maybe more than people who are actually working in other areas of JavaScript, which is more kind of the closest to what OpenJS is doing. So just a comment that maybe for the future, when we're looking at doing another summit, we could see if there'd be some way of co-locating it in the same location. Wouldn't necessarily have to be a collaboration. It might just also make it a lot easier for us to go and travel to just one place, stay the weekend, and then attend FOSS 4G.
And Felix, we have budget for third-party sponsorships at events. So you could have your collab summit at the same time and place in a venue, and then you could also sponsor the event as well. So if you want to send the information my way, and I can check with the organizers. Do they have 2025 planned or more in this year?
Don't know.
Okay.
They might, based on the past, I would imagine they would have maybe like a date and a venue.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I'll reach
Is
out to
this-
them.
Is this the one for this year? Yeah.
That's
Looks like-
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, that's unfortunate.
Mhm.
I mean, at least it's a different continent.
Yes. Yes, but I'm sure we'd all want to go to both. But yeah, okay.
I hate to say this, people have bought plane tickets in this group, right? Yeah, because I think we had a couple of we had a couple of options in London for dates, but if you've already bought tickets, speakers invited.
I mean, personally, I haven't, but I think that trying to change the date now might be more trouble than it's worth.
Right. I mean, it's just kind of an unknown impact. I
Yeah.
know some people have.
Yeah, I think so too. So
I've got tickets, but I will be there through the following Friday. So I could potentially shift it by 1 week.
Chris.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah, if we went like the next week, but it all depends on Microsoft's availability, all these kinds of things, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at that email from Shane Boyer and see what they said.
Yeah. Martin also can't attend because it conflicts that he has on this particular date, and he's the React Google Maps developer. So it would be nice to be able to have him in person because he's in Europe. So it's, yeah, you know, you just get a couple reasons to change it. You start to think, oh, maybe it's a good idea. But let's see. So we can table that for now and maybe look back on the idea.
Yeah, my intention certainly
did-
wasn't to move this year's event. It was
Yeah.
more.
They did just come back, the London team, saying that the 10th and 11th. So I think we're pretty locked.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
That makes the choice easier. There is no choice. Okay, anything else on the summit? We can move on.
Mhm.
Okay. Websites. I think we just kicked this off last time. Is there any update, Robin, on engaging our designer on potentially merging our VisGL site to
That is a question for Kylie. I will follow up with her. I know she was tracking.
Cool. All right. Are there any framework updates?
Yeah, there's updates from last week that we didn't get to.
Okay. What would you like to cover?
Let me
So I wasn't here
see.
last time. I just squeezed in one bullet in the top section, but go ahead.
Well, I don't know. Can you show me next a couple of the next ones and see you guys can see if there's no. Okay, let's go back to the WebGL one. So there is an Luma 9.1 integration PR is up on WebGL. It breaks pretty badly. We've fixed a bunch of things. I believe that the big changes right now are related to the texture refactoring. So the way one works with textures in WebGPU is very different from WebGL, and so the way you update the data is different. That API has changed, and so there's some pretty demanding work sorting that out. So that's one thing that's holding it back. You know, we should probably I think we have a tracker somewhere. They're not linked here at the moment. But we may kind of want to start swarming around 9.1 and really like figuring out what are the final things and kind of get on them together. Should we? You've made quite a bit of progress, Felix, I understand, with your uniform buffer.
I mean, this is slightly old news now. The the project module, then that was ported to UBO, and I've merged that. And apart from an issue that you had, Chris, then I am not aware of any issues with that, even though it's out in the wild. So this is kind of like a silent update to get us closer to WebGPU. I've tried out doing the same with scatterplot layer, and it works, but I think we need to discuss a little bit more. You had some comments there, Ib, on how to do it in a way that's not so verbose, because it's just like 3 very similar blocks of code at the moment, like a type, a JavaScript object, and the definition in the shader. So it'd be nice if I have some time next month when I'd like to go through all of the layers and fix these, but it would be great if we were on the same page about the approach for the first layer before going through and doing it everywhere.
I had just a question on this one here. Has there been more discussion around kind of this idea of delaying WebGPU to another minor release and doing more WebGL focused improvements for 9.1?
I mean, we only need to do 9.1 technically if it's if you're on mute, or at least I can't hear you.
There's been quite a bit of change in Luma v9.1, and so we may want to introduce that. And if we don't have the, you know, if we're not able to muster the resources of actually getting, you know, WebGP running, then it might still be worth getting a DeckGL 9.1 out. So
do any of the changes in Luma mean that we need to make breaking changes in DeckGL though? I mean, do we need a 9.1 in DeckGL?
Yes.
Okay.
If they actually break applications, it's a different thing, but they break 9.0.
Okay, but then in principle we could bump to 9.1 without having to do a full 9.1 release.
So LumaGL 9.1 breaks DeckGL 9.0.
Okay,
Right now, the integration, there is a 9.1 alpha out and it breaks DeckGL, and a bunch of changes has been made too. So unfortunately, there's going to be small breaking changes until we have WebGPU fully up and running.
May I suggest Luma go to 10.0 because it really should not be a minor release if there's so many breaking changes.
There are not so many, and I don't think they'll be visible to applications. But we'll probably be. If we're gonna worry about that.
Anyone using Luma 9.0 directly will not be able to upgrade to 9.1 without making significant changes. And that by definition is a major release.
Well, maybe we should look at the changes. So, I mean, I don't care. We could go for like you know, we could adopt for a while, you know, 3JS. We could have DeckGL v9, v10, v11, v12, you know, over the next, you know, couple of quarters until we're out. That's what this team can decide.
No, all I'm saying is Luma should publish 10.0, not 9.1 with the current changes.
I think we should look at the changes. You're hearing me saying something, and we haven't actually looked at the changes. And so, you know, let's take a look at the changes together and decide.
Sure.
All right. Are there updates for loaders?
The big update is that there is now the source system now has finally the table tile source. So, which is client-side vector tiling. So it's now possible to basically run the tile layer on a GeoJSON table. And so this is based on Agafonkin's GeoJSON VT, but it's that's a notoriously you know, difficult module because it has no types and it overloads values, stores different types in the same fields at different times, and adds like extra fields to arrays and stuff for bookkeeping and so on. So it's very kind of hard to work with. And so this is now a TypeScript refactored version. And the kind of dream here was that we would make a version of this that would work with binary tables, so that we can have our binary loaders load binary tables, and we can tile directly from those, ideally into binary tiles. So, but it sets the stage and means that we can, in principle, show bigger. You can load a really big GeoJSON table, and that normally it would bring the GPU to its knees during rendering, but now you can still render it. And this is what Mapbox does with GeoJSON. It uses client-side tiling. So that's pretty cool to have that. And then maybe next slide. Right. So in the PyDeck, we've done, Dawn, you've done kind of been able to keep it alive with a few new releases. We did get a good contact with the maintainer of iPyWidget, who's writing a new PyDeck based on any widget. Unfortunately, it's in Japan, and it's been a little bit of a challenge to. It was enough of a challenge to schedule a meeting with him that I haven't gotten it done yet, but there could be a potential path to reviving PyDeck. I think also we need to decide how important Python is together, because we're obviously feeling that it's a challenge for us to maintain it. At the same time, it's one of the really big use cases, kind of source of usage of DeckGL. I think we stand a little bit risk of being kind of infrastructurized. So more and more, people are not consuming DeckGL directly. They're consuming things like things that are built on Deck, And so I think Longboard is an example of that. People are now talking about Longboard and the great capabilities of Longboard, and obviously 90% of Longboard is DeckGL, and so it's kind of a choice. Do we want to be like more directly connected to the users and have our brand in the mind of the users, or are we like an infrastructure component that are used?
And do we
under
have
the
any way
hood?
of knowing, sorry to interrupt, any way of knowing like the relative usage? I mean, it would surprise me if there's that much Longboard usage compared to Deck, given that it's quite a new project.
I've been talking to half a dozen important people, and they're all talking about Longboard and asking me if DeckGL is going to do the same things that Longboard is doing. If we're gonna, they don't know the relation in many cases. They don't know that.
Who's important people?
Important people include customers, includes the guy who leads the Mind Behind Maps podcast, Max, and so people with some network and we're interested in geospatial things, and we're looking at the latest.
I think if we can get it would be interesting to get a conversation set up at awkward hours if need be. with the IPy widget maintainer and try to get a better sense of what it would take to go down that path and use any widget, hopefully keeping similar to the current public API. Yeah, I think it's hard to, I don't have a good sense of the cost of a change like that or the implications for the public API. So that I think would be a good conversation.
Right. Yeah, but maybe we should have this discussion about like what is the next, if there is a next 5 years for this framework, like what are the things that matter, right, to the community, where are the things that are going to have an impact.
Yeah.
Maybe Python is part of that, maybe not. All right.
I have a Hubble GL update, so I'm working on a 1.4 release right now. That's mostly a maintenance release, so it's ported to TypeScript, got React 18, Deck 8.9, React Map GL7, and Kepler 3 support, new website. And then I'm going to be planning to cut a 2.0 release with the Deck 9 support, just so that there's basically one good release with 8.9, and from then on it'll be Deck 9. But it's actually remaining to be seen if there's actually a need for any kind of breaking changes in my upgrade to 9 with what Hubble uses, since I'm already using the Mapbox overlay in 8.9. So might not even need a major change for Deck 9 support, which would be awesome. But then the bigger thing I wanted to discuss was around moving Kepler specific components into Kepler. As I've been reviewing what's actually in Hubble, noticing that there's a lot of React components and some core code that is only used by Kepler. And it's caused some headache in the past when the config change breaks something in Hubble and the UI, and you start to ask, why not just maintain it together? So in a sense, Hubble's already ready for something like this. The core features are customizable, and the animation code doesn't need to be shipped inside the core package. You can instead implement it inside of Kepler directly, just import the core components you need. So it's something I wanted to ask, or discuss. I don't know, maybe Ib and Shan, whoever works on Kepler, be something to talk to. But those are my thoughts for a V2.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like a Kepler GL community thing, right? It's I mean, the concern is like how much can core Kepler maintainers absorb. Now, both, as long as you and I, and Shan are all involved, maybe between us we can swing this, right? But at some point, I mean, that would be my only concern. I'm not saying it has to be. I'm not saying we're not going to integrate them, but I'm saying that would be. I think it makes a lot of sense, but then, Kepler is so big and so difficult to maintain already as it is, right? Now we're adding even more to it. So
yeah, in the end, we should look at it. I think it's a really valid concern. You don't want to add something we can't maintain long term. It's very little code, which is kind of the part where I'm like, well, it breaks a lot and it's very little, so we might want to just bring it in to prevent the breaking.
Is it possible to test those within Kepler's code base? Like, I think it's hard to have code there that can't be tested by those maintainers.
Tested in what, like maybe like a render test, you mean, or something like that? Functionality test.
That seems about right.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. It's possible to do. You do golden image tests with a few, where you run the renderer and make sure it works, kind of thing. So those are some of my thoughts for V2. Maybe we could talk more about it offline or something. But I would really like to do something like this. And I think it would be overall beneficial to Kepler to move some of these things over into it. There any other topics?
I have forked Munir into VisGL. And I've been pushing off moving the Hammer.js code into Munir. Hammer.js was last updated 8 years ago. That was really a long time ago. Like just coding style and packaging methods have changed significantly, and there's no maintenance, so there might be vulnerabilities that we cannot fix. That's kind of the last piece in our stack that is still outdated, and we don't have full control of right now. If you look at DeckGL source, we actually have a post install script to modify the Hammer.js package so it will work with ESM modules. And this action has been triggered by some latest bug reports that basically Hammer is failing to do certain things in Firefox and Safari, and we can't really fix those but without reaching into it. So I'm slowly porting Hammer files over. If I know you raised the concern that we may not want to keep that name, my current issue with this is we can't really change dependency without bumping major version of Deck, and I really don't think that's important enough thing just to rename a dependency package.
Let's rename it when we bump the version.
We can't just move to a different dependency without bumping major version in Deck, because
Yes,
Deck
but then
Deck
but I
directly
understood.
exposes Munir types to the user.
No, all I was saying was that when we bump Deck, then to the next major version, then let's bump. That's a
Yeah, we can do it. We can talk about the package name later. But yeah, I'm open to that. I personally do like the current package name, but yeah.
All right. Well, we'll put the names to a vote as we usually do, and it's not a bad name. Cool. I have to leave. I have another important meeting.
All right. See you next week. Or
Thanks,
week.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Guys.